Dr. Segers, thank you for taking the time to be with us today and visiting with us a little bit about celebrating 50 years of the existence of this facility here in Corpus Christi, the Research and Extension Facility, providing outreach to the area. And you were here, I guess, some time ago. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your time that you spent here in Corpus?
Oh, be glad to. Yeah. Well, it's a bit of an interesting story. I got a master's degree there at Corpus Christi, Texas A&I at that time, and I ran across Lynn Wilson. And I don't know if y'all are interview Lynn or not, but
we're gonna try. Yes, sir.
Okay. And he had their program was starting here that was really an important program at the Corpus Christi Center, Integrated Pest Management. And I worked originally there at the center for Texas Pest Management Association as a scout supervisor.
Huh.
And in cotton entomology. And then from that position, I moved to be research associate with Dr. John Benedict as a cotton research entomologist. And then I had the chance in 1984 to switch over to extension and start at the very root level of their computer efforts, computerization. And you're right, at the center there was no infrastructure for computers or networks, or there were a couple of small statistical computers. They kind of looked like cash registers that we had that were in research. And we had one terminal that we could hook at the center that people shared, that you could hook back to College Station to run statistical analysis. And extension and research guys shared that terminal, but it was painful.
Is that what they call the data dump?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a difficult thing. You had to put your data in, dump it up there, and they ran it, and then you had to go back on and retrieve it, and it was kind of painful. But Extension had the idea to start this computer technology unit, they called it at the time. Information technology as a term didn't even exist.
Wow.
And initially, we had just an eclectic set of computers of all sorts. And we had, early Apple and IBM and K-Pro and all these different kinds of brands, different companies that were trying to make computers. And we started out, we put a few on the desks, and we had word processing, and we had spreadsheets, and we had a database program. And we started out just trying to, initially teaching people at the center there first how to turn one on and what it could do. And from there it went to it started getting a little more sophisticated as some funds became available. We bought desktop computers, and we put a computer system in the center. And at that time, to do that, we had to do the wiring and the infrastructure all ourselves. And they're just electrical companies and what we have now, IT-based cabling companies and things, that they just didn't exist.
What year was that, Dr. Segers? What year was that? If you remember.
It would be 1983 and 4. 84 is when we really got started.
Okay.
Yeah. And Lynn Wilson was I guess he was in your position in district administrator, district extension, and DEA, I think.
It was a district director. He was actually
district director. Yeah. Okay. I knew it had a different title back then, but yeah, he was interesting. That back classroom that's back behind the auditorium. I was talking to him. I said, well, we're going to need a place to set up the central computer and bring all the wires in. And oh, by the way, I need an office too. And he said, well, you can have this little room back here and you can just build your own office. And so I worked with a couple of guys that worked around there, and we put up some walls and some doors and made a little place to put the computer, ran all the wiring back there to that little, I think it was originally a classroom or something.
Well, I think it's a classroom again. I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about, but it's a classroom.
That's a little wedge-shaped one back behind the auditorium.
Oh, no, okay, no, that's still there, but yeah, I know. There's several offices, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was probably used more for storage than it was anything else when we
Yeah.
took it over. But so we got to build our own offices and our own space to wire that up. And from there, from there, the program went out. Certain counties were chosen, usually the larger ones that had, a couple, two or three agents and more secretaries, and they got one computer.
Yep.
And we set it up on a table, and then they got to share that computer.
What are the first computers? Was those Coronas or Compacts or what?
Yeah,
Which were
we
those?
started originally with Corona,
Okay.
and then Corona and Compact came out with a little bit smaller, easier to manage computer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put those out in the county offices, and they call them portable computers, but
Yep.
they're nothing like today's laptops.
No, they look like a sewing machine.
Yeah, they were a suitcase size, and they were pretty stout. And at the center, I only worked there at the Corpus Christi Center and with the Weslaco Center, and we put the centralized computers, the multi-user computers, only in the centers. So there's one computer in the office, and they got to share that. And of course, you can kind of imagine what happened is there was always one person. Sometimes it was an agent. Usually it was one of the secretaries that caught on to that computer, could do the word processing, and they could use a spreadsheet to keep track of everything from the county show to kids in the 4-H club and everything, and they usually took over that computer.
And how was the adaptation? I mean, how was were people receptive to that at the time? Did they embrace it to some extent?
Well, it was slow.
Okay.
We'll put it that way.
All right.
Most people, I think particularly a lot of the agents, they said, "Oh, that stuff's just a fad. It's not going to go anywhere. We're not going to use that thing." But there's always, just about every office, there was one person that said, "Hey, I can do something with this." And it rolled slowly at first. It wasn't until we could put more computers in. The funding came along, and the computers got much better. The original computers just ran on floppy disk, and today people wouldn't even turn one on.
Yes,
it wouldn't be worth using. So.
Yes, sir. Well, and then of course, how did it? Did I guess they turned into teaching the agents and teaching the researchers to use the computers, or
Yeah, it wasn't too long after we got started and saw the need for training. The unit hired a couple of training specialists, and then each of us that was a computer specialist, also got into the training. And we had trainings initially for agents and center staff, but that also went into, after it probably wasn't very many years, it went into producer training as well. As there were producers, and particularly the ag economics guys were, they were really trying to get producers to do some better record keeping. And there weren't really any sophisticated programs for computers like there are now.
So they actually ditched their overhead projectors for a computer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. After a while, they did. That took a while.
That took a while. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. As I told you, we have a future committee working on a presentation as well. And there, we have drones and we got robots. And we have these little robots that go up and down the turn row now, taking pictures of the cotton plants. Yeah. And we have the drones, and easy to upload. Upload any kind of video or media or any communication that we can now. It's amazing that it has moved from those type of computers, from a data dump, and then catching data through a wire, to all the things that we do nowadays. It's just amazing how that's done in the last, I would say, probably 40 years, maybe. or something like that, you know?
When the wireless technologies became available, it opened up a lot of doors for for extension and for research. And I know we used wireless. It was more crude when I was still in that role, but we used it to hook up, hook the network to greenhouses and put some cameras in and some things like that. And it was easy to see the potential.
Yes, sir. Well, then you actually ended up going to College Station. Is that correct?
Yeah, in 1986, I got a chance to transfer up to College Station as more in a mid-management kind of role, and so you know how that is. Once you do
Yes,
that, you don't touch things quite the same way.
yes. Okay. And obviously you retired a few years ago, correct? Or
In 2019.
2019. Oh,
Yeah.
golly, it's been a while already. It's been a while already. I thought it was just the other day.
No, well, I retired just in time for the COVID pandemic.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. That's true. Well, Dr. Segers, that's exactly what we needed. I do appreciate your time and your willingness to do that. I think we got some really good insight about the computers and how that actually started as well. I started as an agent in 1987, and I remember those Corona computers. I remember one computer per office. We called them a computer room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when days were slow, you found yourself in the computer room trying to learn the computer. That's what a lot of agents did, and
Yeah.
and I remember people that adopted it or not. You'll find this story kind of, what you said. I had an agent, a trainer agent once that told me, he said, "Don't worry about that email stuff." He said, "If it's important, they'll send it in the mail."
That changed rapidly.
That changed rapidly, didn't it? Yeah, it sure did. He said, you don't have to worry about that email stuff, because it's just a fad. It's going to go away. And
Yeah.
you know what we do now. So
Yeah. That email, once that came available, it got adopted very quickly.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just made
Maybe
it
too
easy.
much. Yeah. Well, thank you again for your time, and I appreciate it.